It's Missy.
And it's April.
And this is
SheelaNaGig. Oh my goodness, it's been a day and we're just getting started.
I actually drank a can of lentil soup on the way here to April's. I was running so late. That's all I've had today. And life is just fucking crazy. It's cray-cray.
Chaotic, right?
It's been chaotic and cray-cray. Yeah.
Yep,
but
yep.
still grateful every day.
We're
Grateful.
here.
We're here. And before, we were having sound troubles.
So we're hoping.
And April was
we
yelling
fixed
at
it.
me. She was actually yelling at me.
Because she kept going, check, check. Now, I needed full sentences to hear a voice, not check, check. Okay. She's a musician.
You think I know better, you know? I always hate those singers who like break into song. I'm always just like, check, check. I'm cool, you know? Like, I'm just checking the mic.
I just freaking needed you to say more. Anyway, we're moving on. We're moving on.
No, and we're okay. How are you?
Yeah. I'm okay. Well, it's been crazy and chaotic.
I know. You went to visit your son, Sam?
I did. We went
great?
up to Eureka, my husband and I. We had a wonderful time. It was really fun seeing him in his new place, being so in charge of his life.
It's so amazing.
He's 21 years old. Yeah, it's cute.
And I love the picture you sent of him on the ice. He's like an ice skater now.
Oh, I got a better one. He's a really good ice skater.
And he just learned to ice skate, right?
When we came up there, he didn't know how to ice skate, but his job is on the rink, picking up people and keeping them moving along. And now he twirls and turns and looks very fancy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And I have to send you the latest picture, which is of him with Frosty the Snowman.
Oh, can we post that?
Sure.
On our Instagram?
Yeah.
Let's post that on our Instagram.
We'll do that.
Just for little Sam. He'll love it.
And what about you? How are you doing?
I have no fucking clue how I am. I don't remember anything. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, yeah, I'm doing okay. We're getting through. It's the holidays, you know.
Yeah,
we're getting
coming
through.
Up, right?
Getting through. We have a big party on Saturday.
Yes,
You're coming.
you do. I'm coming. My daughter's coming.
April needs her wine.
I'm like, please pass me the wine.
We're both having a little bit of wine. I mean, I feel like we sound like alcoholics.
I know,
It's like we're always
sound
drinking.
Like drunks. We don't usually.
We really don't, but it's a little bit cray-cray, like I said right now. But I have a very special Sheela to share today.
Ooh.
Now, here's the thing. We've had this podcast just over a year.
Yes, since last September.
I've
a year
learned
ago.
so much about women in history, and
Right?
I've always been a fan, but, you know, honestly, there's always somebody I've never heard of before.
Absolutely.
Always. And sometimes I feel kind of silly because I'll be talking about the podcast and I'll say, so we did this episode. You didn't know who that was? You know, like, well, no. I mean, I don't claim to be a historian.
Right.
I'm interested in history and I love doing the research and I love learning, but I am by no means a historian. So to me, this was somebody that I did not know about, that I was thrilled to learn about. But some of you historians, you're probably not even listening to this podcast.
We probably insult historians.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But anyway, it's somebody that I learned about, and I'm sure many of you, especially in California history, probably do know about her, but I didn't. So I was kind of thrilled. And it all started, I was at a party in Northern California, and I met an older woman, and her name was Donaldina.
Donaldina. Okay.
Donaldina. And I thought that was such a cool name.
Yeah.
When I was a little girl, I had my teddy bear's name was Haroldine.
Haroldine. Okay.
That's a little bit like Donaldina.
A little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, I said, oh, that is such a cool name. And she said, well, I'm named after Donaldina Cameron, of course.
Of course.
And I said, yes. And I said,
I knew that. Doesn't
yes,
everybody?
Of course you are. And then I said, I'm so sorry, but can you enlighten me a little bit? And she said, you know, she was this amazing missionary woman who basically saved all these Chinese women in Chinatown in San Francisco back in the day. She just sounded amazing. And she said, and my parents were missionaries and they were absolutely in love with her. And so they named me after her. And she was such a powerful woman. And I'm really proud of my name. And I was like, okay, check. And I immediately grabbed my phone and put Donaldina Cameron on my list. That's what I did.
So just to warn you, Missy has a book of notes in front of her.
I always do. I'm not going to warn you about it because you know what? If I was going to warn you, it would be boring. It's not going to be boring, April. Okay.
Okay. Well, lay it on us.
Okay. And also the font right now is 18 point. I want you to know because I have terrible vision. So
that is true.
Yeah. She's exaggerating.
I exaggerate.
She's trying to make me feel bad. Okay.
I already tried to make you feel bad.
Oh, I know. Like I said, she yelled at me earlier. Okay. Just here we go.
Okay.
We get to get into our episode.
Yeah, we're getting in.
All right. So, Donaldina Cameron was a Presbyterian missionary who was a pioneer in the fight against slavery in San Francisco's Chinatown, who helped more than 3,000 Chinese immigrant girls and women escape from forced prostitution or indentured servitude, working tirelessly from 1895 to 1934.
Whoa, did you pick a powerhouse? And I am among the ignorant, never heard of her, and didn't realize that was happening.
Oh, yeah, this is I mean, I remember the whole yellow fever thing. That was a big, and this is kind of part of that. But, okay, so to brothel owners, she was Fahn Quai, the white devil. To the girls and women who she saved, who were living in her missionary home, she was Loma, or Little Mother. And to her family, she was Aunt Dolly. And history calls her Chinatown's angry angel before human trafficking was even called by that name. Yes, Donaldina was only 3 years old when a campaign began that would shape her life forever. In nearby San Francisco, Protestant women launched an attack on yellow slavery in 1873, the same year the cable cars first climbed San Francisco's hills, actually.
Wow.
But Donaldina wouldn't even know this problem existed until she was 25.
So Donaldina was a white Presbyterian woman. She wasn't Asian, is that-
Correct. And she was Scottish.
Oh, okay.
She's from Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she had this great little brogue.
Oh.
Yes. So let's start at the beginning. Donaldina Cameron, Dolly, who I'm really not going to refer to her as Dolly because it just seems so...
Diminishing.
I don't know. She's so amazing. I mean, I love Dolly Parton, don't get me
Right.
wrong, but I'm going to be calling her probably Donaldina and Cameron, just so you know. Her family called her Dolly, and that's good.
Okay.
That's
cool.
very endearing for them. Okay, so she was born on July 26th, 1869, in Otago Land District on the South Island of New Zealand to Alan Cameron and Isabel Mackenzie. Her parents were actually descendants of Scottish Highland sheep ranchers and had come to New Zealand a few years before her birth. I love that they were sheep farmers. They were sheep ranchers, sorry, not farmers, sheep ranchers, yes. And from a long line of sheep ranchers.
Long line.
Yeah. So she was the youngest of 7 children, and she spent her time sheep ranching with her family.
Sheep ranching. That
Sheep
sounds
ranching.
really interesting.
It does.
Okay.
And despite her family being very large, again, one of 7 siblings, they were a very close-knit family. And in fact, the second eldest, Annie, acted as a second mother to Cameron. In 1871, Cameron's family moved to San Joaquin Valley in California.
Oh, hey.
I know. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy? You could just pack up your family of, 9 and move over to California?
And sheep herders.
Yeah.
Is there sheep herding in California?
They thought it looked desirable in
Okay.
California for some sheep herding, so that's
All
what
right.
brought them out of here.
Cool.
Now, I don't want to say sheep herding, it's sheep ranching.
Sheep ranching.
Big difference.
My apologies.
Big difference, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So her dad thought it looked pretty desirable in California to do some sheep ranching, which is why they came out to the San Joaquin Valley.
Gotcha.
However, in 1874, just 3 years after their arrival in California, when Cameron was just 5 years old, her mother passed away from influenza.
Oh, how sad.
I know, isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Sadly.
Sadly, as
Yeah.
we say.
Yeah. While Cameron's father worked for other sheep ranchers, her older sisters looked after her. And the family then moved to Oakland in 1878 and later to La Puente near Los Angeles in 1885.
And all this time they were looking to do sheep ranching.
Well, it's interesting you say that because no.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought initially, or I thought maybe her dad was a criminal and he was on the run or something. So they were like, but I'm thinking, wait, they moved to all these places to do sheep ranching, but that's not the case. Donaldina attended Castleman School for Girls in San Joaquin. She went to high school in Oakland. And then she continued on to go to college at Los Angeles Normal School. By the way, the Los Angeles Normal School was a teacher-trained institution founded in 1881 that later evolved into UCLA.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So
Never knew that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
I had to look it up. You know me.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah,
Thank you for that rabbit hole.
So then she went on to become a teacher from there. And tragically, though, her dad died in 1887. So this caused her to drop out of college and go to live with her siblings in La Puente.
Uh-huh.
So, the family was a large family. She was the youngest. So when her dad died, that's
That's what
what
happened.
brought her to La Puente. And when she was 19 years old, she actually was engaged for quite a while to her elder brother's friend, but they broke off their engagement for unknown reasons.
Okay.
So at this point, she was 25. That is a damn long engagement.
Yeah, that is a long engagement.
When she heard about a place called the Mission House in San Francisco's Chinatown. They had a family friend, and she basically shared it with her, and she told her that the Mission House was a safe place for young Chinese women run by the Presbyterian church, where the girls were provided with food, shelter, and the teachings of the Christian faith. Over 800 women are recorded as having lived there between 1874 and 1909. So a little bit more about the climate at this time, though. In 1882, the U.S. Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. Now, this was an act that basically banned Chinese people from immigrating to the U.S. And the only way that Chinese immigrants could get in at the time was to prove that they were the child of a U.S. citizen and thus were citizens themselves, or they were maybe married to an American-born Chinese man, or they had Chinese-American relatives residing in the U.S. And impoverished parents also often sold their daughters, and some were simply kidnapped.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. This led to many endeavors to forge paperwork to let Chinese immigrants through. Many Chinese women were tricked into traveling to the U.S. at this time. They were often being led to believe that they were going to have an arranged marriage with a nice Chinese-American man.
Nice mail-order bride?
Yes,
yeah?
exactly. And that there would be better opportunities there.
Right.
So, many of them went willingly. And instead, they would suddenly find themselves forced into sex trafficking, and they would be trapped in these phony contracts that would make it virtually impossible for them to ever leave.
Oh, my goodness.
And these women were treated as human cargo. They were forced to live in these appalling conditions at the time. They were often forced into sex, physical abuse, and had little hope of ever leaving.
Oh, how horrible.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
They lived in dark, dingy shacks and rooms frequented by men, and many of these women contracted venereal diseases and suffered mental breakdowns and horrible indignities.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I know. It's horrifying. And the scheme was organized by these Chinese secret societies run by men called tongs. And this period of history became known as the yellow slave trade.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And again, these tongs, they were run by Chinese men, and they initially emerged in the 19th century, American West, and they served as kind of a mutual aid societies, and they provided community and protection for Chinese men in what they considered kind of a hostile and unfamiliar environment. But many became involved in criminal enterprises, unfortunately, and primarily capitalizing on the heavily male-dominated Chinese immigrant population. I know.
Horrible.
I know. It is horrible. So the Tong formed prostitution rings, and it became a lucrative business within the community. Again, young Chinese girls were purchased, deceived, or stolen, smuggled to the U.S. as daughters of merchants. They were then delivered into slavery. The youngest ended up as domestic servants who endured heavy labor and cruel punishments, and the teens ended up in brothels. Most of the girls forced into this life survived less than 5 years from the time they entered the U.S.
Oh, my goodness.
It's devastating.
Horrible.
And I know this has to be hard for
horrible.
you because your daughter is Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're picturing this and like, yeah.
Oh, I can't even put my brain there. I won't go there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, it's terrible.
I know. It's devastating. But here's an excerpt in something called Broken Blossoms, taken from research with the U.S. Customs Service and the realistic depiction of the arrival of Chinese into the San Francisco harbor at the time. Quote, "A horde of Chinese men, mostly in their 20s, trod next down the gangway. All of them were dressed in clean blue cotton blouses and baggy trousers. Their foreheads were shaved, and their glossy black hair was braided with silk into long queues. The writer, Carly, recognized them as coolies, or laborers, who would work in any one of a variety of low-paying industries. They carried long bamboo poles across their shoulders, baskets attached at each end that contained their meager possessions. A dozen or so Chinese girls followed. Though they wore tunics and trousers like other Chinese women, theirs were obviously of poorer quality. Their cheeks and lips were painted a gaudy red. On their heads they wore checkered cotton handkerchiefs, the chevron of prostitution. Ignorant of morals and the contracts they signed in China, they would service their masters into slavery more horrible than any human being should endure. After an indelicate search by the officers, their purchasers delivered them back into the charge of sallow old hags dressed in black and carrying rings of keys at their waists. Carly's heart ached for how these girls would live. Would they ever know the warm intimacy a man's love could give them? Would their lives always be so hopeless? I'm sorry, I laughed at that just because that's very cliche.
Yeah.
But
It's true.
it's just, the whole thing is very sad.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's just horrible.
It's very sad. And this was written a very long time ago, so.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed to know that these illegal and demoralizing conditions existed, but few, including public officials, were willing to act, which added to the importance of the work of the mission and of Donaldina Cameron. These women were desperately in need of someone willing to advocate for them to free them from indignity and captivity. All said, missionaries of the Presbyterian Church who were concerned ended up founding the Occidental Mission Home for Girls in San Francisco's Chinatown to rescue young girls and women from horrific situations and, wait for it,
Yes.
to teach these Chinese women Christian values.
Of course.
Oh my! I know. We're gonna get there, but okay.
Although to be fair, I'd rather learn Christian values than be, part of a sex trade.
But that said, that they had to choose that. But
Yeah.
but we'll get to it. Let's put a pin in that a little
All right.
bit. Yeah.
We'll put a pin there. Oh, I love when we put pins in
I know.
things.
Oh, April loves it. We put pins in things. Okay, so I know that this is all a lot to take in, and we're going to go back to Donaldina Cameron now. So she's 25, right? She's grieving from her engagement breakup,
Oh.
and she's looking to do something meaningful with her life, such as marry a nice young man and have children.
Yep. That's what usually young women do.
No, honestly, until then, Donaldina, admittedly said that she'd always expected she'd marry, she'd have a family, she'd live some kind of comfortable life, just as her Scottish-born parents had done. And that is just what she kind of had expected of her life. And she wanted to be a teacher as well, but she had dropped out of school, but I think her intention was to go back to school, but things really shifted at this point. And again, that's when this family friend kind of stepped in. Her name was Mrs. P.D. Brown. She was the former president of the Women's Occidental Board of Foreign Missions and the founder of Young Women's Christian Association branch in San Francisco. And she brought her to the mission home, hoping to inspire her to work there. So, of course, Donaldina absolutely found herself intrigued by these women's stories. And intrigued and absolutely blown away, that these young girls were given these safe havens, and that she was so impressed by the courage of the mission's founder, Maggie Culbertson. And her friend ended up saying that, Maggie's health was beginning to fail and that she just really needed some help. So she agreed to donate her time. She thought, I'm going to do this for a year. This woman's, she's done a great thing. She needs some help. I can help out for a year and then kind of move on and
get married and do what she was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
What every good Scottish girl does.
That was her plan.
Yeah.
And initially she was going to just teach girls sewing and other useful skills. But she quickly became the right-hand woman to that heroic superintendent, Margaret Culbertson, and became her second in command, just because the woman who had been doing that had recently resigned. And again, Margaret's health was beginning to fail, and she desperately needed that support. So even though Maggie Culbertson, Margaret went by Maggie, received help in running the mission, she always did her rescues herself. But now, again, her health was starting to fail, and she basically asked Donaldina if she could begin to help her. So just 18 months later, Maggie died, actually.
Oh, dear.
Leaving Donaldina to assume a role that she had barely begun to learn.
Wow.
Yeah. And, of course, let's talk about Maggie Culbertson here as another Sheela.
Yeah.
Actually, there are many Sheelas in this story. There are so many. We can go back in and do some deep dives for sure, because there are many Sheelas within this story. But, of course, she was a Sheela in her own right, and we'll definitely have to do a future episode on her. And, Donaldina never expected that her job would also become rescuing Chinese women and children from sex slavery and indentured servitude. But she willingly took that on. As soon as she started working with Maggie and realized
the magnitude of
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
She began pretty quickly helping with the rescues as well.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah. And contemporary sources refer to this work as the only foreign mission enterprise ever carried out in the United States.
Really?
Which
Wow.
is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And by almost all measures, Donaldina Cameron was an unlikely fighter. She was very tall, and she was very slender, and she was extremely shy, supposedly. And she was deeply religious and had the gracious manners of a society belle.
You're right. That doesn't exactly conjure badass missionary.
No, and I think she really surprised herself in all of this. Again, this certainly wasn't what she expected to be doing.
Right.
But it kind of caught her off guard. But then she really realized, again, like you said, the magnitude and the importance of this work and the necessity of this work. And she kind of just threw herself fully in.
Wow.
And I was saying, you know, she was shy and she was kind of awkward. But to those who crossed her, she was anything but timid. She began taking this role very seriously, and she could be as tough as nails. So her enemies knew it, and they began referring to her as Fahn Quai, which translates to the White Devil.
As you mentioned earlier.
The White Devil, yes. They also called Cameron the Jesus Woman, and they liked to tell their captives that she would drink their blood. If they tried to escape or she captured them. And she would drink their blood basically to keep up her vitality. So I love how they spun this as a total vampire tale.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them believed it. But Cameron, of course, by all accounts, was beyond compassionate and therefore fearless in these really challenging and dismal situations. And also, she ended up having this uncanny knack of smelling out those brothels, often hidden behind trapdoors.
Ooh.
Yeah, she had a good nose, apparently.
That's a skill.
It is. It absolutely is. And of course, she found herself in the worst hellholes of Chinatown.
Well, wait a minute. So she'd break into these brothels?
Oh, yeah.
And take women?
Yeah.
Wouldn't men overpower her?
Well, we're getting to that, April.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
April likes to, she likes to stay on it.
I get into it.
You know,
you're
likes-
telling
yeah.
very compelling story.
Yeah, but let me tell this story. We're getting there. We're getting there. So, she basically would have to be very sneaky, and because she needed to be avoiding detection
Right.
at all points.
I would think.
And those Tongs who controlled the slave trade would often threaten her and her mission with death and destruction because they knew that she was fucking around. Like, she was out there, she was rescuing these women, she was breaking in, she was fucking with their business, basically.
Yep.
So, but sometimes she would also enlist the help of the Chinatown police squad, which is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
And so sometimes she would say, hey, I have a lead on this person, come with me. And they would go together to the prostitute cribs, as they called them.
Yeah, cribs, because these were babies,
Yes.
young women.
Yes,
Oh
a
my
lot of them were.
gosh.
And Donaldine would often be engaged in these like action movie type chases over rooftops. I mean, if you read about it, it's fat. I mean, I can picture her just going full on.
goodness.
She would be jumping over rooftops, and she'd be, going down these dark alleys, and she'd be climbing ladders and crawling into these hidden rooms. And some say she even wielded an axe to break down the doors.
So she was a badass.
She was so freaking badass. So freaking badass. And unfortunately, the law wasn't always on her side.
I wondered about that.
Yeah. Since child protection laws were non-existent until the early 1900s, getting legal custody was sometimes really difficult. Yeah. So the Tong leaders, they would claim that the girl was a relative or that she was working voluntarily, and they were sponsoring her. They had a right to their property.
Oh, wow.
So the courts often argued, compelling Donaldina to occasionally break the law to save those girls. And she realized early on that her best strategy was just to nab the girl and work out the legal issues later.
Wow.
So that's just kind of what she started doing.
Yeah.
And at least then the girl could be like, tucked safely away and the mission house, and then the courts could hash out all those details later. In 1904, she had her attorneys challenge the courts to provide child welfare laws.
Ooh.
And that was a breakthrough that would, of course, provide her a most useful tool for her rescues. And sadly, this just went on. She had those 2 action-packed and successful years, or 18 months basically, working with Margaret Culbertson, and learning kind of all the tools of the trade, so to speak. And then suddenly she was fully in charge, as we had said earlier. Yep.
Wow.
So she continued to manage the home. So, by night, she was out on her action adventures rescuing these women. Not always by night, but often by nightfall, because it was easier to be covert at that time. But she continued to manage the home by day. She was educating the residents, encouraging them in the arts, also teaching basic skills such as sewing and cooking, and of course encouraging those Christian beliefs.
Of course.
And the other thing she was doing, though, is a lot of kind of trade training. She really wanted these women to be able to be independent. You know, I mean, obviously some of them would marry, some of them would not, some of them would go on to school, but she wanted them to be self-sufficient no matter what their future plans were.
Well, that's a pretty great vision.
It's great. Yeah. So she was teaching them a lot of trade as well, which I think is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And a side note here, I have to comment on this because I know, we talk about missionary work. It's obviously very controversial. It has those historical links, of course, to like Western colonialism and imperialism.
Yeah.
And also about, those concerns to cultural insensitivity. So you may be thinking that Donaldina Cameron was using religion to manipulate these women, but I have a lot more to share. So I just ask our listeners, and you too, April, to please refrain from judgment just yet. But I do like these controversial Sheilas.
Yep.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. So going back to the mission home, though, the home also housed Chinese children of prostitutes.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of them.
Women got pregnant.
Yeah,
sure.
of course they did. And again, believing it was the best way to give these girls new lives. But they were expected to convert to Christianity and engage in daily morning Bible study, evening prayers, and Sunday school. Again, it's just a little controversial.
Well, I get that, but
life is a trade-off. I don't know.
Life is a trade-off, and their lives were definitely.
But it doesn't have to be. I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. But again, I'm going to reveal more information as we go here. So, and I will say too that the girls, it's not like they were kept there. They could leave. With their own free will at any time.
Okay, that's different. Yeah. That is different. It's another thing if they're put into another form of bondage.
Right.
By having to stay and
yeah, but it's kind of like they didn't have a lot of choices, because once they get back out on the street, they're just going to probably get abducted again by the tongs,
Yeah.
So they were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
But getting back to that missionary work, I did a lot of research, and I did find that apparently if a girl came to Donaldina, and she didn't want to convert to Christianity, she would still receive safety, care, and practical help.
Okay.
Food, shelter.
Yeah.
Because Cameron's, primary vision was, rescuing these vulnerable Chinese girls from forced prostitution and servitude, regardless of their faith. And, though the home operated on these Presbyterian principles, offering this Christian environment, it didn't force the faith. If this woman girl chose to leave, she could. But that home provided such a better path.
Obviously.
In so many ways.
So many ways.
So,
including not forcing it.
Yeah, and I think, though, I think what it was if you lived there, you were expected to participate in those morning prayers and those rituals.
Sure.
You couldn't just stay in your room or whatever. Whether you believed it or not was up to you.
Right.
But it did, you had to really cut your losses and just decide, Sure. And again, I can understand both sides of it, but I still see Donaldina Cameron as a really amazing woman.
Oh, definitely. And a brave woman.
And a brave woman.
Sacrificed a lot.
So brave.
Yeah.
So in essence, again, her mission was about rescuing souls and bodies from bondage, with faith, of course, being that core of her offering, but not a strict requirement for receiving that initial humanitarian aid and protection. And again, this made me very happy.
Yes.
This made me very happy. Because that would be terrible if they got put back out on the streets because they didn't want to be Christians.
Right. Yeah.
That would kind of suck. That didn't happen. Okay.
Didn't happen.
But again, they were expected to participate
Okay.
nonetheless.
Yeah.
I guess you can't have everything,
Well, if
right?
you're brought into a home, you're going to be expected to live in the manner of that home.
That's true. Like my mom always said, this is my house. You're going to be in by 12 midnight. You're going to, whatever it is, you're going to be in,
I don't even think it's that controversial, especially since they did have choices. They didn't have to convert. They didn't have to participate. And again, if somebody's taking care of you, you're in their home, you're following their rules.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. And a lot of the women did willingly convert.
Yeah, I'm sure compared to their lives.
I say willingly, but come on, what am I? I don't know. I wasn't one of those girls or women.
Some
but
people are. There are a lot of people who really. I mean, you and I aren't deeply religious, but there are people that
we're
are
spiritual.
deeply yes.
But we're not religious.
Not religious, but some people find spirituality through religion, and maybe that's hard for us to understand because we don't necessarily. But that doesn't mean that other people genuinely don't.
Right.
And so I have to believe there is a swath of women there that really experience deep spiritual awakening.
They probably did. They probably did. And apparently there was something about, too, when they were dating, Donaldina really wanted them to, if they were going to date, she wanted them to date nice Christian men so they could marry and have a nice Christian life.
As opposed to go back to men who were abusive and
exactly.
didn't care. Right. So
right.
I could think of worse fates.
Exactly, I know. And listeners, we'd love to hear your comments on this because, again, it's kind of controversial, so we'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
I don't even think it's that controversial. I really don't.
Really?
But, yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So the other thing, obviously she's running this home. She's feeding these women. She's clothing these women. She's a lot of court costs, of course, too. There's so much going on. So there was a lot of money going in and out. And, Cameron proved to be a really good businesswoman early on. She was constantly seeking ways to raise money for the home. And she was also the residents' guardian, and she was the one responsible for fighting these court cases to secure their guardianship.
So, like a lot of our Sheelas, she did 647 things well.
She did.
She worked tirelessly.
She did.
Yeah.
She really did.
Yeah.
So she also hosted about 20 guests every day to socialize and interact with the home's residents, as she didn't want them going out because she wanted to protect them.
But she cared about them having socialization.
And that's what it was. Yeah. She wanted to bring in, appropriate guests, whether they were men or women, so that they could talk and they could socialize and they could, they were also practicing English. Some of these people were English speaking, some of them were Chinese speaking. She just really wanted them to be able to socialize and to acclimate. And again, they could leave if they wanted to, but as long as they were staying at the home, she really didn't want them to go outside. Because, of course, they could be harmed. They could be taken back by those brothel members. People knew where the home was, and apparently they were watching it at all times.
Oh, wow.
So these women could be just scooped up in an instant if they were to go outside the home.
Wow.
Yeah. And obviously she was just strongly against racist attitudes toward Chinese people. She was very accepting of the Chinese culture. Obviously she was upholding her own values and leadership at the home, but she also encouraged Chinese culture, providing the women with their accustomed foods, decorations,
so
honoring cultural holidays.
Again, this makes it less controversial. I think she was really a stellar woman.
I think so. I think it's so great. Too. And there's so much. Again, I took such a deep dive on this. I've been working on it for like 3 weeks, honestly. But there are things that say she didn't do that, but enough of the research I did say she did do that. There is some research that said, she never, acknowledged that they were Chinese or let them celebrate, or some things actually said that. But enough things, I think more things said that she was encouraging. So I'm going with that.
Okay.
I'm going with that. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And the house was also apparently the site of many happy marriages of girls who eventually found worthy men. And some of those girls opted for education instead.
Well.
And she was extremely supportive of that. They didn't have to get married. They could go on and do education. That was fine with her. She didn't have any set thing about these women need to be married off or. And one of her daughters, Bessie Jiang, became the first Chinese woman to graduate from Stanford University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Can you believe it? There's another Sheela right there.
There's another Sheela.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So another daughter, she called them daughters.
Daughters.
Yep. Trained to become the first Chinese nurse through the Presbyterian Hospital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I did try to find her name, but couldn't find it easily, so that will require a little bit more of a deeper dive. So I will get on that, but listeners, if you know who that is, please let us know.
Yeah.
Please let us know. And that is another Sheela.
Mm-hmm.
We should start counting the Sheelas in this episode. We're up to like 6 or something, I think, right? But other daughters stayed on at the Cameron house to help with the mission's work.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, some of them were just like, we want to stay here and help.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
it's such a worthy cause. But all said, running the mission home was very tough, and it was an all-encompassing job. And then, although Cameron had AIDS, she was fully invested, and she often worked 7 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So dedicated.
So dedicated. One girl was named Tian-Yu, and she had arrived at the home before Cameron. Initially, she was a very willful child, and she butted heads with Cameron.
With Cameron.
She did. Butted heads. However, after one of Cameron's aides passed away, to quote Cameron, Tian-Yu came in and just threw herself against her bed, and she sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And after confronting her, Cameron asked Tian-Yu if she'd like to be her aide. And she began working for her the next day.
Wow.
And they formed a very close relationship that more closely resembled that of a mother and daughter than anything else.
Wow.
So-
Interesting.
I
Well,
know.
so they went through the teenage years. And
You're right. Which April's always telling me about, because my daughter is now turning 13 and it's hell.
Yeah, yeah.
And April, what did you tell me about the teenage years?
Oh, they suck. My daughter didn't talk to me for 2 years.
Oh.
And then she came back like it never happened.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm hoping that will happen with my daughter.
It will.
So anyway, it happened for them, which is good.
Good.
As all of the girls in the home, tended to do that. They all tended to look at her as their mother, essentially.
I could see why.
Yeah, they called her Loma, little mother, but she referred to Tian-Yu as Blessed Tian, and the two remained very close, becoming lifelong friends.
Aww.
As Cameron had been to Margaret Culbertson, Tian-Yu became Cameron's right-hand woman, helping Cameron to run the home, communicating with the trafficked women in Cantonese, and campaigning and advocating for them in court and elsewhere. Cameron stated that it became Wu and other Asian staffers that really made her work possible.
Wow.
Because they were Chinese speaking.
Yes, it makes sense.
She always wanted to learn Chinese, but she actually never did.
Oh.
But she had a lot of aides and a lot of Chinese helping her, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now we have Tian Wu. This is another Sheela for you.
Sheela,
Yes.
right?
And her story is particularly harrowing. By Wu's own account, she had been sold by her father in China to pay off his gambling debts.
Oh.
Can you just imagine just like selling off your kid to pay your debts?
No.
It's so fucked up. I can't even imagine. She was 8 years old at the time.
Oh, no.
I know. And basically, she was under the pretense of going to visit her grandmother. And so she was told by her dad to finish eating her supper because they were going to go see her grandma. Never told the mom or anything.
Oh, my gosh.
And the father took her without saying goodbye. She left her family and never saw them again.
Oh, my goodness.
And
No wonder she was salty.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be salty.
I'd be salty too. Fuck that shit.
Right?
Yeah. So basically her father escorted her to a steamer. And when they got there, he locked her inside a cabin on board with only a toothbrush and a washcloth.
Oh, my God.
And they traveled to San Francisco, where she worked as a child servant. Isn't that just so freaking sad? It just hurts my heart so
I
badly.
know, yeah.
So, in 1894, when Tian Fuyu was rescued from a Chinatown gambling den, she was covered in so many burns, cuts, and bruises that it brought tears to the eyes of the police officers who'd come to retrieve her.
Oh, my gosh.
So sad.
So sad.
Poor little girl.
So sad.
I know. And luckily for her, though, she was rescued as a child. You know, when the children came over there, they were sold into this system where they were indentured servants. But as soon as they hit their teen years, they were typically transferred from a life of domestic slavery and into one of forced sex work. So she got rescued in the nick of time, really.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And she was regarded as a very bright and precocious child. She learned to read and write in English at the home. And she eventually attended an elite boarding school in Philadelphia and a Bible college in Toronto. And upon graduating, she decided to return to China because she really wanted to find her family.
Wow. Wow.
I know. But she was unsuccessful, unfortunately.
So she went to China but didn't find
Yeah.
them. Oh.
Isn't that sad?
That is sad.
So sad.
Aw.
She decided then to return to the mission home and become a translator and, manage the large group home that has many as 60 girls and women at a time. And most of them were of Asian descent. Many of them did not speak English. And she just realized that her life's work was there.
Wow.
And so she returned to work there and worked very closely with Donaldina. But I am going to leave us there for now.
Oh my gosh, Missy, this has been so compelling. I don't
It's
want
really
you to
compelling.
stop.
It's really sad.
Oh.
It's a really necessary story. But I'm really inspired and really glad that I can share it.
I'm so glad.
So
you
many
shared
Sheilas.
this. Oh my goodness.
But I think we're going to have to do a part 2.
yeah.
So there's going to be part 2. We're going to start with part 2. And it does get better.
Oh, good. Because it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
But it's
because
really
remember how we talked
riveting.
about her being a badass?
Yes.
The next, I have a few stories to share her badassness with you.
Oh, yay.
That are going to be so freaking, it's like an action movie.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So that's what we're going to do next time. But thanks for listening, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Missy, for bringing this Sheila to light.
Keep fighting the fight. Keep lighting the light.
I love that.
Yes. All right, thanks for listening,
right.
everybody. Until next time.
Peace out.
Bye.
SheelaNaGig.